Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to Games Vitae. It's been a while. Today we are bringing back Two Player Tuesday. So today we are going to be talking about Mythic Mischief. Before we do, please make sure you like, subscribe, comment to the channel, share with your friends. Let's get this station talked about and introduce people to more good games. Alright, well, today this is a fairly recent addition to the collection, and it's something I've been keeping my eye on for a long time. It's by a company called Ivy Studios, Ivy Studio. They are the makers of several good games, one of which is Mythic Mischief. Mythic Mischief is a game for 1 to 4 players, and to tell you the truth, in my plays of it, this is clearly a 2-player game. The rules that I've read through really just kind of accommodate 3 and 4 players to the 2-player rules. So, like I said, this is a 2-player game at its heart. It's an abstract game, despite the fact that it's got an adorable theme. But at its heart, it is really an abstract game. So let's get this opened up on the table so I can show you more about what it's like. I'm not really going to go too much into the nitty-gritty of it, just the idea, so that you can make an informed decision on your own whether this is a good game for you and that special someone. Got misty-eyed there. All right, let's open this up. This is what they call the Headmaster's Edition. It was the edition that was only available during the crowdfunding campaign. This did not take place on Kickstarter, it took place on GameFound. So the Headmaster Edition had some extras that the standard edition that you would get through either your friendly local game store, which all too often isn't that friendly, or directly from the company. So, the Headmaster's Edition, as it says right there, it's exclusive, comes with everything that the base game has, as well as some additional things. Let's see here. Let's get this out of the way first. It comes with some extra factions, for one thing, and that'll make more sense in a minute. You got your rule book, but it comes with the Ghosts, the Witches, and the Trolls expansion, which now you'd have to buy separate. It also comes with 2 boards. I believe the base game just comes with 1. I'm not sure. But it also comes with this organizational tray. Each faction has their own tray to contain their individualized components. The base game does not have that, or the standard version. I keep saying base game, but I really mean standard version. So let's move this off to the side a bit and set up one of these boards in front of you. The concept or the theme behind Mythic Mischief is you are students at a school, and this is the school library. School library has a mean librarian that they refer to as the Tome Keeper. The Tome Keeper is the person that is going to get you in trouble if you get caught. And the object of the game is to get your opponent caught by the Tome Keeper. As you get your opponents caught, you get mischief points. The first player to get to 10 mischief points wins at the game. Or if the game ends before that, the person with the most mischief points wins. Now, you might say, well, how does the Tome Keeper get these people? How does he move, etc., so on? Well, you start the game with your walls or shelves set up in various locations. I'm setting it up randomly, but in the rulebook there are some suggested ways to set up a room, or to set up a library, and you start with 10 shelves. That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 2 more. And there's certain rules about it. For example, you can't put your walls over here on the side, and you also can't section off part of the library such that no one can get to it. So let's talk about what you do as players. We've got these different factions. You've got Frankenstein monsters, you've got wizards, you've got zombies, vampires, and as I showed you earlier, the expansion factions, trolls, witches, and ghosts. Each of these factions do different things, and I'm going to try to not get into that because it can basically devolve into a rules explaining video, and that's not really what I'm prepared to do. I really just want to give you an idea of whether this would be a good two-player game for you and your partner. So, you've got this library, and each person has their figures. Each faction represented by these figures have special abilities in how they move shelves and how they move other players, even their own players. So as a team, this particular faction can move their own players or their opponent's players in certain ways. They can depend on the Tome Keeper going a certain route according to these markers. These markers represent destinations that the Tome Keeper will go to during a game. So the first destination he'll go to is this one, and then this one, and then this one. And he will always take the shortest route available. So, based on that short route and based on the number of steps that he takes each round, you can try and manipulate him so that he will get your opponent's players. If he gets them, they're taken off the board until that player's turn, in which they can put it back on, and you get a point. These are some player aids that kind of help you out. It's really not that difficult of a game to learn. It's a difficult game to master, I think. There's a lot of thinking. It's a very thinky game, in my opinion, in how you can maximize the amount of trouble you get your opponent in by moving shelves and moving mythics. You can also do things to manipulate which way he goes without moving these characters I referred to as mythics. That's how they're referred to in the book. Without moving shelves or moving mythics, you can also do things to make him move in the direction you want. There are two phases to the game. There is the before lunch phase, and there is the after lunch phase. In the before lunch phase, it will tell you where you put these markers, and it'll tell you how far he moves on each turn. In the before lunch phase, he always moves 4 spaces. In the after lunch phase, which I can't find the cards, I think they're over here. Yep, here they are. In the after lunch phase, he moves 3. And the position of these markers flips to the after lunch color and goes to a different spot on the board. They don't stay in the same spot. So, you have your Tome Keepers, you have your Mythics. Let's get another one out. And I'm just putting them randomly down. I'm not putting them strategically. You also have what they call clutter. These clutter spots that you have on the board, and again, I'm just putting them down randomly. You put them down in 4 spaces. Make it such that the Tome Keeper, when he moves onto them of his own volition, has to take 2 movement to get onto them. So if he's going to this number 1 spot, without it, he could have gotten there easily. 1, 2, 3, 4. But with the clutter there, he would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and catch that mythic. So the clutter really can you have to take that into account in how you're moving the Tome Keeper, how you're moving your opponent's mythics, how you're moving your mythics. In addition to that, you have these little cubes that are on the board. Mine are in the shape of books. I don't know if the standard version has that shape or not, or whether that's an exclusive. Either way, it doesn't really matter. These are called tomes. And you'll find these scattered throughout the library according to the way this card tells you to put them. The spots on this card that have cubes on them are where you put tomes. So the tomes would be, let's see, one here. I put that in an illegal spot is what I did. Let's put that here. There we go. You got one here, you got one here, one here, and one here on the destination. And each person starts with a tome in that spot. There we go. And where's the other one? Did I put the other one? Yep, right here. Hidden by the shelf from where I'm sitting. Also, each person uses a tome to be their score marker down here on the scoring track. Now, you might wonder, well, what role do they play? Well, let's get into the factions really quick. Your faction board tells you, let's see, we've got the zombies and we've got the trolls. There we go. Your faction board tells you what actions you can take and how many of those actions you can take. You do that by, let's put these on top of there really quick. You mark that by using these counters. They look like dice, but they're not being used as such. They're being used as counters. You set up your board initially with your counters on these dotted spots. So you have one here and two there. You actually set them with the face of the die face up to match the number above you. Let's see, that's one. That's one. And you'll notice that this is offset, and I'll show you why in just a minute. And then this one is blank, which means you don't get that action at the beginning of the game. So, where's that? There we go. So you have these set up. And what it means is on your turn, you have movement actions. This is how they move other mythics, which is unique to each faction. This is how they move walls, which is also unique to each faction. And this is called distract, which is how you can draw the Tome Keeper toward one of your characters. Each time you go through these actions, you have to, how do you say it, decrement or lower the count on these counters for each action you take. So if I move this character onto this spot, I have to knock that number down 1. And I continue to do it. Now, going back to tomes. If I move into a spot with a tome, I can pick up this tome and put it on my board. Now, once I do all my actions, like I said, this is distract, but I don't have that distract to enter the game. This is how we get that distract motion. I can, after my turn is done, there are things that I go through with with what they call the cleanup phase. The cleanup phase, I take all of my cubes and slide them as far as I can to the right, left, yes. Your left, my right. At that point, I also I can take any of my tomes and add them to a row. So in this case, I didn't start the game with a distract, but I thought to myself, I could really use a distract on the last game. So on the last round, so I'm going to add my tome to that. So I put my tome there and move the counter that way. Then I would update the number to match the number that is above it. So now on this next turn, I will have one distract action because I used my tome to level up that action. So I realized I skipped a little bit. Each turn, I skipped to the cleanup phase. I already told you about what they call the mythic phase. It's when you take these actions. You're trying to set up such that your opponents get caught and you don't. If you get caught by your own action, you lose one of your mythic points. If you get caught based on their actions, your opponent just gains one. So that's the mythic phase. The Tome Keeper phase, once you're done with the mythic phase and you've used all the actions that you want to use here, the Tome Keeper takes his movement. So in this case, he would go 1, 2, and remember I told you he will go the shortest way to his destination. In this case, it's the same either way. If he went four spaces, he'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. As the controlling player, I would decide which way he went, whichever way would benefit me. So I would take that, going this way, take it off the board, and I would gain 1 mythic point. At that point, then I would move to the cleanup phase that I was explaining earlier. Now, I've added a tome. The next thing I can do is boost an action. In other words, that's a temporary level up of any of these actions. And you can boost one of these twice or 2 of them once. Yeah, two of them once. So, in this case, let's say I needed to reset that. And this, even if you didn't use this at the end of your Tome Keeper phase and you go to the cleanup phase, you have to move this to the left and set it to the number above it, which in this case is 0. So this first action for your bookshelf moving action, which, like I said, is unique to each of these factions, is kind of like a freebie action at the beginning. From that point on, you'll need to level it up with a tome or boost it to continue using it. Which, in this case, considering I used my tome and maybe I wanted to use that, I would bump it up once, probably just once, because bumping it up twice, you'll notice these don't go up incrementally each time. You have to level up enough to get more each time. So I could bump this up to use one of them and then find another one that I would want to do. Let's say I wanted to do this one here. Move does go up incrementally. So if I wanted to move that, I would move this one up here and I'd have 4 moves instead of 3. If you put the tome here instead, you could go from having 3 moves to having 2 moves. That's the great part about move. You bump it up once and you actually get a pretty significant boost. So that's the cleanup phase. You've reset all your dice and that's how that goes. Like I said, this is a very thinky game. I could go into how moving other mythics, either your own or your opponent's, works, but there's 7 different factions here. I think that's really best for you to discover on your own. Same with the different wall or shelf moving abilities. There are certain things that you do need to be aware of with regard to these different abilities. Some of them depend on line of sight. For example, if this person was here, I can use my mythic moving ability because I can't technically see him. Yes, these shelves walls are short, but they're meant to be like library walls, so you're stuck behind them, so technically you can't see them, whereas here you could. So line of sight, same thing with the Tome Keeper with certain things like distract. I think you might actually be able to distract him if you're not in line of sight. I'd have to look that up. But again, this is rules that you should look up. Now, there's some things I haven't covered yet. Namely, this is the lunch move, or the lunch time thing. This is an ability that each faction has a unique thing to do on it. It's marked by having a tome there, which means once you use it, you take the tome off and you can't use it again unless you put a tome that you pick up from the board and put it there again. Which, again, if you use it, that tome's gone. It doesn't come back in the game. So this provides a unique ability, and there's also what they call an after lunch special, which is something that happens in the second half of the game, the purple cards that we use, that gives each faction an ability that you can use once per turn. So much like these that you can use each turn. This, like I said, is a one-time use based on how many tomes you end up funneling into there. But just remember, you funnel a tome in, and once you use it, it comes off. You don't get to put it back here, and it doesn't go back to the board. Once a tome's off the board, it's off the board. Once it's taken off here, it's out of the game. So keep in mind, these can be very useful. I actually haven't played with these yet. I've just played with the basic game to try and get used to the rules and the different mechanics of it and the strategy of it. But I do want to play with these next. It's very, like I said, it's a very thinky game. It's something that takes a lot of planning to make your move effective. It takes a lot of strategizing. It's a cutthroat game. It's very much a take that type of game. So if you have people that don't really get into that, I wouldn't recommend this one. But as a whole, I think this is a very ingenious little game where you have some very basic abstract game components and mechanics, but you also have leveling up and different asymmetric abilities, which makes this a game that you can replay over and over and over again. So this is Mythic Mischief. I am glad that I was able to get a hold of this. Somebody was selling it because they were downsizing their collection, and I saw it, and it was in excellent condition, and it was cheaper than the crowdfunding campaign was. So I really thought this was a steal, and I haven't regretted it yet. So this is something that I look forward to playing more and more. I'd like to try the 3-player and 4-player just to see what I think of it. But like I said, this is a 2-player game at its core. This is something that you really do want to sit down and play one-on-one rather than with a big group. Okay, Mythic Mischief, everyone. Let me know in the comments what you think. Tell me if you've played the game. Let me know what you think of it. If you find it boring, if you find it great, if you find it something that could be improved upon, maybe you're looking for an expansion to it. I don't know. But there's a lot of gameplay here. If they do come out with an expansion, I kind of wonder which direction they'd go in. So, like I said, let me know what you think in the comments, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.